Hi, this is Scott. Welcome to the Tall Woodworker. In this video, I'm going to show you how I'm going to make a transport rack for my car to help me haul full sheets of plywood. Stick around. So this is my car. It is a 2018 Hyundai Tucson. I got it a couple years ago, and one of the things that I really liked is it had the roof rails pre-installed going from the front to back. I had always wanted to find an easy way of transporting full sheets of plywood and other sheet goods from the hardware store to my home. Never had an easy way of doing it. I did work for a company where we had access to a cargo van, but even that wasn't big enough to fit a full sheet of 4-foot by 8-foot plywood on the inside. So I figured, hey, somebody else has got to have the same problem and has to have already come up with a solution. And sure enough, I actually found something. Basically, they used the cross rails and then mounted a pair of 2x4 studs to create the roof support to haul a couple sheets of plywood. So to be completely honest, I actually already made a set, and here's the original set that I made. The problem is when I made this set, I just basically put the cross rails on and then notched out the 2x4 to fit the random positioning I decided to put up there. About a year later, I ended up getting a couple bike racks, and those have fixed positioning, so I had to move the cross rails closer to each other, and that means that the positioning between the front and the back notch, it just doesn't work anymore, and it's so far away, the rear notch would be completely useless on my old ones. So I got to rebuild. Now, admittedly, I'm not going to do anything different in my design with the exception of the location of the notches. So I'm already pretty comfortable with doing this. I've used the old ones to do a couple treks already, and very happy with the design of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and recreate them on these new 2x4s. So all you're going to need if you're going to be hauling a full 4-foot by 8-foot sheet of plywood is, quite honestly, 2 studs that are 8 feet long. That's it. Well, at least for the wood portion of it. You're also going to need a couple of metal straps. These are actually used to strap the stud onto the roof rails. And then I have these L brackets at the end that just act as a positive stop, so I know when I've loaded the sheets fully on here. I have just enough space to get 2 3/4 inch pieces and maybe a 1/2 inch piece of plywood, and that's it. I don't want to haul anything more than that. Then you use a few ratchet straps and you drive home very slowly. Don't want to get the wind caught underneath these things, and don't go on the highways. So before I get started with this, normally this is where I put in the, oh, please subscribe to my channel and please like the video. No, this is more of a disclaimer. If you do decide to do this, please do so at your own risk. Consult the instruction manual for not only your roof rail supports, but also your crossbars. Make sure you're not overloading them. Technically, I'm putting the entire weight of everything just on 4 points on the top of the car. That can be a little bit dangerous. Also, because they're above the roof of the car, wind can get caught underneath there. So you're doing this basically at your own risk if you decide to follow along. But I've taken a few trips. I haven't had any major issues. I drive slow, I take side roads, and so far I haven't had any issues with using these. But again, your mileage may vary. So let's get started, and I'm going to start measuring these out for my car. You can see the bike racks on my roof rails. I have to move one of them out of the way so I can lay out my cuts. I have a basic idea of where I want these to land, but essentially I'm trying to get them as balanced as possible between the cross rails. I use a speed square to mark out where the notches will be cut. Then I take one rail back inside and transfer the lines to the other rail. Using the crosscut sled, I cut away the extremes of the notch. Then I make multiple passes to hog out the rest of the material. The height of the blade should be slightly less than the vertical thickness of the cross rails on the car. This way, the metal straps will have some spring tension on the rails. You can't see it in the shot, but I'm taking advantage of the extension wing on my crosscut sled. This did a great job of helping me balance the stud on the sled. If you haven't seen that video, I'll add a card in the upper right corner of this video. Now I use the metal straps as a template to mark out the holes, and I use a 90-degree drill block to drill these holes. This is a mistake I'm correcting from my first set. On that set, I free-handed the drilling, and it was difficult to put the straps on once the rails were on the car. On the top side, I used the stepping bit to open the hole large enough to accept the head of the bolts. I then hammered the bolts into the studs. I don't have footage of this, but I also filled the area around the heads with epoxy to keep them firm in place. It's important that the heads are below the surface so it doesn't mar up the sheets. Now I mark out the holes for the L brackets, pre-drill, and screw the brackets into place. Remember that these don't hold any weight. They're only here to act as a stop when loading up the sheets. Time to install. These simply drop right on top of the cross rails. I slide the metal straps onto the bolts and then use a socket wrench to secure them in place. So I couldn't get any footage of me loading up the sheets, but I do have footage of me taking them off. These rails stick off the back just far enough so I can rest the edge of the sheet on the ground and then hold them up against the rails. I then lift them up and slide them onto the rails. A couple of ratchet straps is all you need to secure them in place. So here I got my new sheets home and time for me to remove them from the roof of the car. I always struggle with these ratchet straps, don't know why. I think they're too long for what I need on this car. But once I get them off, I can easily slide the sheets off the back of the car, prop them up on the ground, and then take them away. So hopefully you found that informative. Like I said, that's actually my second version of that roof rack. The only reason I really made the redesign is so that it would fit on the roof rails once it was adjusted for the bike rack. You saw me in that video carrying two sheets of, it wasn't 1/2 inch, I believe it was maybe 3/8 inch plywood. It's actually those two sheets I still have back here. That's for a future project. The 3/8 inch was a little bit flexible. Typically I don't do anything less than 1/2 inch, and 3/4 inches is perfect in terms of once you get the ratchet straps on there, there's no bowing or anything like that. So I was a little bit nervous, to be honest, with these ones, but with 1/2 inch and above, I haven't had any issues with that. So hopefully that gives you some ideas of ways that you could transport large sheet goods on your car or SUV. Again, like I said, you do this at your own risk. Make sure you follow the load ratings of not only your cross rails, but the roof rack itself. Don't overload anything, and drive slow if you are to do this. You don't want any wind gusts coming in, grabbing that sheet goods and ripping that off the top of your car. That would be a pretty bad thing to have happen to you. So be careful, and like I said, do it at your own risk. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Be sure to comment on what you like about the design and maybe what you've done to transport items that are larger than your own car. Obviously the easy answer is a trailer, but I don't have a good place to park a trailer nor an easy way of towing it on my car. I don't have a hitch on the back of my car. So this was the best solution that I could think of. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Until next time, thanks for joining me in my shop. Hey look, I found footage of me loading these things up on the car. Just kidding, that's actually me just playing the same video in reverse. But it gives you an idea.